Mike Johnson had worked as the bank guard at the Cedar Grove Community Bank for nearly 5 years. Every morning, he arrived 30 minutes before the branch opened. He pressed his badge into his uniform, tied his shoelaces tight, and walked the quiet halls alone. The soft hum of the security cameras greeted him as he flicked on each screen. He checked the alarm panel, made sure each door was locked from the outside, and took a deep breath. This was his routine, his safe space. Knew the layout by heart: the teller counter, the loan officer's office, the vault door behind 2 heavy steel gates. He could patrol the lobby in his sleep. On this Tuesday morning, the sky showed a pale blue, streaked with early light. Few clouds drifted like cotton. Parking lot held only one other car, belonging to Mrs. Patel, the branch manager, who arrived even earlier than Johnson. He waved at her through the tinted windshield and headed inside. The hush of the building made him feel alert and ready. He checked his watch. 8:05 a.m. Soon the doors would open, and the customers would stream in for their morning transactions. Johnson wandered past the rows of empty chairs by the teller windows. He saw the polished wood floors shine under the fluorescent lights. He liked how everything felt in order here. The bank prided itself on serving local families, small business owners, and retirees who liked a friendly face with their banking. Johnson took pride in his job. He greeted everyone he saw with a nod or a smile. He liked helping people feel safe while they handled their money. At 8:15, the bank doors slid open with a soft hiss. Johnson stepped closer and took his post by the front entrance. He smoothed his uniform and watched the street outside. He saw Mrs. Thompson push her walker toward the door. She smiled at him and said good morning. He returned her smile and asked if she needed help with her deposit slip. She shook her head, lifted a small envelope, and shuffled ahead toward the teller station. Everything felt normal, the way it did every Tuesday morning. Then Johnson noticed a new figure stepping in. He wore a dark suit that looked as if it had been tailored the day before. The fabric fell smoothly over his shoulders. His white shirt gleamed under the lights. A leather portfolio hung at his side. He moved with calm steps, confident but quiet. He smiled once at the entrance, then scanned the lobby, as if noticing every detail in one look. Johnson studied him. The man looked older. His hair was silver at the temples. His skin had soft lines around the eyes. He seemed polite and kind. But Johnson felt a small knot of worry twist in his stomach. The guard watched as the stranger paused in the middle of the lobby. He did not approach a teller or plant himself behind a counter. He simply stood and looked. Around, Johnson remembered his training. Anyone who strayed from normal customer behavior could be a threat. The man had no bank card in hand, no cash to deposit. He looked out of place. Johnson straightened up and reached for his radio, ready to call for a check if he felt unsafe. The stranger casually met Johnson's gaze. His eyes were calm, thoughtful, like he was just watching the guard watch him. He took a step forward and cleared his throat. Johnson took a breath and stepped toward him. The guard said, "Sir, may I help you?" His voice was steady, but firm. Kept one hand near his radio and another close to his badge. Customers paused, sensing something had changed. Mrs. Thompson looked worried, and a younger woman at the counter glanced over at the pair by the door. The man opened his portfolio with a slow, deliberate motion. He turned pages of a folder inside. The leather creaked softly, revealing neat letters typed on white paper. Johnson waited, hands on his belt, watching every move. The man's calmness made Johnson even more tense. He asked again, "What brings you here today?" His tone was polite, but cautious. In his mind, Johnson listed possible threats. Could this man be casing the place? Was this a test, or was he simply lost? Finally, the stranger spoke in a low, gentle voice. "Good morning," he said. "My name is David Carter. I'm here on official business. I work with the Federal Banking Security Office. I have a scheduled audit today to review your branches. Security measures." He handed the folder across the small gap between them. Johnson looked at the papers, his heart pounding a little faster. They showed official letterhead, a date and time, and the signature of a senior official. Felt a flicker of relief, but kept his guard up. He studied Carter's face. There was no hint of threat there, only calm professionalism. Johnson took the folder and flipped through it. He saw the words routine security audit and immediate compliance required. The paper looked genuine, crisp, and official. But Johnson knew, just as the trainers had told him, that paper could be forged. He tapped his radio mic. "Branch manager, code 3, he said quietly. In security jargon, that meant he needed backup to verify these credentials. Carter looked on, calm and patient. He folded his hands in front of him. He did not try to hurry Johnson or push him aside. He simply waited politely. The tumble of papers at the teller counters slowed as employees turned to watch. Customers in line murmured softly to each other. A few glanced down at their phones. Johnson took a deep breath and replied, "Please hold on while I confirm this." He spoke into his radio again, giving the details. Moments stretched as he waited for an answer. Carter stood still, respectful, patient. His calm presence made Johnson feel awkward, like he was accusing an honest man. Johnson glanced at his radio, then at Carter, and at the gathering crowd. Mrs. Thompson shuffled forward. She leaned on her walker and said in a small voice, "Is everything okay here?" Johnson forced a reassuring smile. "Yes, ma'am," he said. "Just a routine check." He tried to keep his voice light, but he could feel the weight of his doubt. Carter offered a polite nod to Mrs. Thompson before meeting Johnson's eyes again. Mrs. Thompson went to her teller window, still shaking her head as if to say she did not understand. Johnson watched her go, then turned back to Carter. The guard pressed a button on his console, and the main office confirmed Carter's identity and purpose. "All clear," said the voice in his earpiece. Johnson exhaled and looked at Carter, his cheeks warm. He realized he had treated a polite visitor like a suspect. He felt shame mixed with relief. He handed back the folder and said in a softer tone, "Thank you for your patience, Mr. Carter. Everything checks out." Carter closed his portfolio and smiled gently. He held out his hand. Johnson shook it, trying to steady himself. As Carter walked deeper into the lobby, Johnson fell into step behind him, ready to show him around. He straightened his posture and straightened his name tag, determined to make a good impression. The small knot in his stomach loosened, but he could still feel the memory of his doubt. The day ahead would be filled with questions and inspections. Johnson felt a new respect for this calm, elderly man who carried authority without force. He hoped he could learn from this moment and do better next time. And with that thought, he led Carter toward the back office where the manager awaited, ready to begin the audit that would change the way the branch thought about security forever. The branch manager, Lisa Morales, had arrived just as Mr. Carter and Mike Johnson stepped into her small office at the back of the lobby. The office smelled faintly of coffee and paper. A framed photograph of the Cedar Grove branch's grand opening hung on the wall. Lisa looked up from her desk and greeted them both warmly. Mike felt a flush of embarrassment as he realized everyone had likely heard his radio call. He cleared his throat and tried to sound steady. "Good morning, Ms. Morales," Mike said, handing her the folded audit letter. "This is Mr. David Carter. He's with the Federal Banking Security Office. He's here to perform a routine security audit." His voice wavered slightly. Lisa took the letter and scanned it carefully. She knew this process was normal. Every few years, a representative would visit to review their security policies. Still, Mike's earlier caution had made her curious about Mr. Carter's approach. "Thank you for coming in, Mr. Carter," Lisa said, offering him a seat in front of her desk. Carter nodded politely and sat. Mike remained standing near the door, uneasy. He shifted from one foot to the other. Lisa unfolded the paper fully and read line by line. She noticed the official stamps, the crisp signature of the regional director, and the clear audit schedule. "All of this looks in order," she said. "Please let me know how you'd like to proceed." Carter smiled and placed his folder on the desk. He tapped it once lightly. "I'd like to begin with a walkthrough of your security equipment," he said in a calm, even tone. "Then we can review your incident logs and staff training records. Few team members, just the tellers and you, in turn." He spoke clearly, and his manner put Lisa at ease. Mike stepped forward. He had carefully memorized every step of each security drill. He led Carter back into the lobby. Lisa watched them go, then opened the door to call out. "I'll meet you." "By the vault," she said, and then closed the door behind her. Mike felt Lisa's eyes on his back as he guided Carter past the teller stations, past Mrs. Thompson, now chatting quietly with the teller, past the potted plant by the waiting chairs. His uniform felt tight under his arms. They reached the vault. The massive steel door stood closed, locked with a code and a heavy bolt. Mike pressed a few buttons, turned the bolt, and swung the door open with a soft grind. Inside lay stacks of deposit bags and bundles of currency in tall shelves. The air smelled cool and metallic. Carter stepped inside carefully. He ran his hand across the shelf labels, as if noting each category: coin storage, high value, bills, locked bags. His fingers lingered on each volume, then he stepped out. "How often do you test the vault alarm?" Carter asked, his voice gentle. Mike swallowed. He had performed the monthly test as required, but he had never been questioned on details before. "We test it on the first business day of every month," Mike said. "I call the central office and trigger the alarm. We check all sensors, door motion, glass break. Then I log the test in our system." He tried to sound confident. Carter nodded. He pulled a small notebook from his suit jacket and jotted something down. "Good," he said. "I see your logs here." He held up a printout of the test history, matching Mike's description exactly. Mike realized Carter had already reviewed their digital records before even arriving. He felt a little awe at Carter's preparation. Carter closed his notebook and stepped aside. They moved on to the teller area. Tall glass windows separated the tellers from the customers. Behind each window stood a computer, a stack of deposit slips, and a clear tray for cash. Carter walked slowly, tapping each pane of glass with his knuckles. He watched the reflection of the guard in the tellers. Mike noticed that Carter did not touch the glass roughly. He was careful not to leave. "Any marks? How often do you clean these partitions?" Carter asked. Mike blinked. "I clean them daily," he said. "We use antibacterial spray each evening after closing." Carter nodded and moved to the next station. He carefully lifted a deposit slip from a stack and examined it. "Your tellers use the same batch of slips for each day?" Carter asked. Mike nodded. "Yes. They keep them in a locked drawer when they aren't serving customers." Carter made notes again. They continued to the main lobby door. Carter examined the electronic lock and the metal frame. The door had small dents from years of carts and carts being moved. He touched a dent with his fingertip. Mike watched anxiously. He felt responsible for every scratch. Carter turned and gave Mike a small, polite smile. "Nothing too serious," he said. "Just something to note for future repairs." Mike exhaled and guided him to the side door near the vault. At each step, Carter asked precise questions about camera coverage, backup power, employee badge protocols, after-hours procedures. Mike answered each in turn, sometimes hesitating when he realized there was a small blind spot in one camera's view. Carter jotted it down. Mike felt torn. He was proud of most of the bank's security, but anxious where it fell short. He wished he had noticed that blind spot earlier. After the patrol, Carter closed his notebook and said, "Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Your knowledge of the system is thorough. Now I'd like to speak with Ms. Morales about staff training and any recent incidents." Mike nodded. He felt a release of tension wash over him. I had passed the initial test, but he still wondered what else Carter might find. Back in Lisa's office, Carter and Lisa sat facing each other. Papers lay between them: training attendance, sheets, incident reports, and security policy documents. Carter picked up a report from 2 months ago about a misdialed alarm. "See here that an alarm malfunctioned at 3 in the morning," he said. Lisa nodded. "Yes, a technician misconfigured the sensor. It triggered the local alarm, but did not reach our monitoring service. We fixed it within the hour and updated our procedures." She tapped a pen on the desk. Carter smiled approvingly. "Good response," he said. "Your incident log shows you reviewed the situation and retrained the team. That is exactly the kind of follow-through we look for." Lisa smiled. She felt proud that her team had handled that problem well. Carter pushed the log aside and opened a new section of his notebook. "I'd like to talk about your staff training program," he said. "How often do employees undergo security awareness training?" Lisa leaned back in her chair. She knew this answer well. "We have a half-day session every 6 months," she said. "Covers fraud prevention, phishing awareness, and how to spot suspicious behavior. We also do a quick refresher once a month." Carter nodded. He flipped through the training schedule and asked about attendance records. Lisa handed him printed sheets showing each employee's name and training date. Carter reviewed the names. "I noticed one new teller joined just last week," he said. "Have they completed the training?" Lisa looked at the list. "Not yet," she admitted. "She starts next week's session." Carter marked it down. "I recommend a one-on-one briefing before her first day on the floor," he said. "Even a short coaching session can help reinforce what to watch for." Lisa nodded, making a note on her own pad. She appreciated the useful advice. They moved on to discuss emergency drills. Carter asked when they last held a fire drill or an evacuation. Lisa explained the yearly schedule and assured him they kept records of each drill. Carter skimmed the drill logs, then looked up at Lisa. "Overall, your branch shows strong compliance," he said. "You understand the importance of both preventive measures and immediate response." He paused and smiled. "I will prepare my final report, but I anticipate no major issues." Lisa felt relief and pride. She thanked Carter for his thorough review and practical suggestions. She then stood and offered a firm handshake. Carter stood too, shook her hand, and folded his notebook. "Thank you for your cooperation," he said. "Your openness helps strengthen security across the network." Lisa watched him gather his documents and step toward the door. Outside, Mike stood by the entrance, straightening his uniform. He had waited there quietly, feeling the tension return as Lisa and Carter finished. When the door opened, Mike stepped forward. "Mr. Carter, is everything all right?" he asked. Carter paused and turned, offering another calm smile. "Yes," he said. "Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I appreciate your help. Your alertness and attention to detail are valuable. You saved us time by knowing the system so well." Mike felt a surge of pride. Carter's words made him stand taller. As Carter walked toward the exit, Lisa joined Mike. She placed a hand on his shoulder.
"Hi."
"You did good today," she said softly. Mike exhaled in relief. He watched as Carter reached the front door and paused at the glass. He looked back once, waved, and then stepped outside into the morning light. The doors closed with a soft hiss, and the lobby seemed quieter than before. Mike and Lisa stood together for a moment. The bank felt the same polished floors humming. Cameras, quiet offices, but something had shifted. They now knew their strengths and a few small areas to improve. Mike felt a sense of purpose renewed. He realized that security was not just about watching doors and screens, but about constant learning and teamwork. He turned and walked back toward his post by the entrance, ready for the rest of the day. Mike Johnson stood by the front entrance, watching the late-morning customers trickle in and out. The audit had ended, but the excitement still buzzed through the lobby. He straightened his cap and checked the clock. It was nearly 11. He was due to meet Mr. Carter again in Lisa Morales' office, this time to hear the formal findings of the audit before they were shared with the regional director. Mike felt a flutter in his chest. He hoped they had done well, but part of him worried he might have missed something that Carter would call out. Back in the manager's office, Lisa tapped her pen against the wooden desk. The printed report lay between them, a stack of crisp pages with neat bullet points, recommendations, and a final summary. No one had ever scrutinized their branch so closely before. The memory of Mike's initial hesitation still lingered in Lisa's mind. She looked at him with understanding. He had felt responsible and nervous, and she wanted him to see this as a learning moment, not a mistake. Mr. Carter entered the room quietly, carried his leather portfolio under one arm and a thin USB drive in the other hand. He looked calm and confident, yet approachable. He set the drive on the desk and opened his notebook to the summary page. "Thank you both for meeting me again," he said, his voice warm. "I have compiled my observations and recommendations. Overall, the branch is in strong condition, with just a few areas to address. Carter slid the first report page across the desk. Mike leaned forward, studying the text. His heart skipped when he saw the first item. Excellent routine checks. Guard displays strong knowledge of security procedures. Mike's chest swelled. He felt proud that his careful patrols and monthly tests had earned praise. Lisa smiled at him, and he returned her smile, relieved. Carter continued. Camera coverage is adequate, though there is a blind spot in the northwest corner near the customer seating area. I recommend adding a second fixed camera to cover that spot. Lisa nodded and made a note. Mike remembered that blind spot. He had noticed it during the walkthrough but had dismissed it as minor. Now he saw its importance. A camera right away, he said. His voice sounded firm, determined. Carter gave him a small nod of approval. The next item read, Vault alarm testing is precise. Continue monthly tests and ensure backup power checks occur quarterly. Mike felt his confidence grow. He realized his routine work made a real difference. Carter paused and looked at Lisa. Your follow-up on the sensor malfunction was prompt and thorough. Well done. Lisa's eyes brightened. She pressed her lips together. Proud of her team, Carter flipped the page. Training attendance outside scheduled sessions is low. I recommend brief monthly refreshers of 10 minutes each during staff meetings to reinforce security awareness. Lisa looked thoughtful. She turned to Mike. Could we add quick 5-minute drills after lunch each week? She asked. Mike nodded. Yes, that would work. We could run a short scenario each time, like spotting a suspicious package. Carter agreed. Perfect. Small, regular sessions will keep security top of mind. Carter's pen moved down. The next line, documented incident logs are clear. I suggest adding a section for near-miss events, situations where something almost went wrong but was caught early. Mike blinked.
Oh, yeah.
He remembered a time when a customer nearly dropped a stack of cash and a teller picked it up just in time. They had laughed it off and moved on. He had not recorded that as an incident. Now he realized it qualified as a near miss. We'll update our logs, he said, feeling eager to improve. Lisa agreed and circled the suggestion. They reached the final page. Overall security posture is good. The branch demonstrates professionalism and care. With these few adjustments, it will meet and exceed federal standards. Mike let out a long breath. Relief and pride washed over him. Carter smiled. Thank you for your cooperation, he said. I will submit this report to regional headquarters, and I expect they will be pleased. He closed his notebook, slid the USB drive into his pocket, and stood. Lisa stood too, and extended her hand. Thank you, Mr. Carter, she said. Your guidance has been invaluable. Mike joined them and shook Carter's hand as well. I appreciate your help, he said. I've learned a lot today. Carter looked at him kindly. You have a good attitude, Mr. Johnson. That makes all the difference. His words felt genuine praise, and Mike's chest warmed after Carter left. Lisa turned to Mike. You did more than fine, she said. You kept calm, you answered every question, and you showed real care for this place. Mike shrugged as if embarrassed. I was nervous, he admitted. I didn't want to let anyone down. Lisa laid a hand on his shoulder. We all learned. Security is never finished. It's a process, and you helped make it better. Mike returned to his post near the front door. As customers came in and left, he watched them closely. Each moment felt more alive. He thought about the blind spot and the new camera, the near miss. Records the quick lunch drills. His work had a purpose beyond locks and alarms. It connected to people's peace of mind. At lunchtime, Mike found the tellers gathered in the break room. He carried sandwiches from the small kitchen and handed everyone a plate. They smiled and thanked him. He sat with them around the small round table. The fluorescent lights above hummed softly. One teller, Jen, wiped her brow. So she said, How did the audit go? I heard someone asked a lot of questions. Mike took a bite of his sandwich and nodded. It went well, he said. I actually got complimented for knowing the system. But we have a camera to add and a few new report sections. He looked at Jen, and we'll start 5-minute drills each week. Jen clapped her hands. Sounds fun? I need to practice staying alert. The others laughed. The mood felt lighter now that the audit was over. Mike felt included and proud. After Lunch? Mike walked back to his spot and held a short drill. He explained a scenario. A customer leaves a bag unattended. What do we do? He asked. The tellers offered answers. Alert security. Call the manager. Check for ID on the bag. Mike nodded as they spoke, then guided them to the best response. Steps. In just 5 minutes, they laughed, asked questions, and felt more confident. Mike thought that Mr. Carter would have approved. The afternoon passed quickly. Mike walked the lobby, greeted customers, and kept an eye on the new signs Lisa had put up reminding visitors to secure their belongings. He felt a new sense of purpose, watching people and thinking about their safety. At 3 o'clock, the branch closed for a staff meeting. Lisa invited everyone into her office. She held up Carter's report and read the highlights aloud. The team clapped and shared smiles. Lisa said, "We have some work to do, but we're on the right track. Thank you all for your efforts." Mike felt pride swell in him. Faces of the tellers, their nods. He realized the audit had brought them closer as a team. That evening, after the bank closed, Mike walked the empty lobby one last time. He paused by the northwest corner. Imagine the new camera mounted. High, its lens pointing down at the seats. He pictured how it would catch every movement there. He thought of the near-miss logs and the quick drills. He saw the polished floors, the humming machines, the potted plant by the window. It was the same place, yet it felt different, safer, more connected. Mike locked the front door, switched off the lights, and pressed the alarm panel. He entered his code, and the red light blinked on. He smiled softly. Tomorrow, he thought, would be a better day for security. Every day after that would be even better, because he had learned that vigilance meant more than watching the screens. It meant learning, sharing, and caring for the people he protected. With that promise, he walked into the night, ready for whatever the next morning would bring. Mike Johnson arrived at the bank early, just as the sun began to cast pale light on the parking lot. He unlocked the front door, set the alarm panel to ready, and walked through the lobby. The new security camera sat in its protective housing. High in the northwest corner, its lens pointed down at the waiting chairs. Mike stood beneath it and tested its angle by moving slowly in front of it. He saw himself clearly on his handheld monitor. He smiled. This small change made him feel safer already. The tellers began to arrive at 8 o'clock. Mike greeted each by name. He noticed how the new near-miss report form sat in a small stack on the counter by the break room. He picked one up and took it to his station. The form asked for date, time, description of the near-miss, and who was involved. He thought back to the day a few weeks ago when Mrs. Thompson had almost dropped her purse by accident. He wrote that down quickly before the memory faded. Customer nearly left purse unattended at the counter. Teller noticed and returned. It. He filed the slip in the incidents folder behind the desk. Recording it made him feel like he was building a clearer picture of the bank's rhythms. At 8:15, Mrs. Thompson arrived with her walker. She placed her deposit slip on the counter. She stepped back. Mike noticed his monitor blink with a silent alert. The camera had caught a bag left by one of the chairs. The old system that blind spot would have gone unnoticed until an hour later. Now Mike saw the image on his screen immediately. He walked over and gently moved the bag closer to the chair, then announced over the lobby speaker, "Attention, if you have left a bag or a personal item unattended, please secure it at your side. Thank you." Mrs. Thompson smiled and nodded, and a young man who had been reading his phone pocketed his satchel. Mike felt confident in the new camera's value. Mid-morning brought a small surprise. The regional security director, a woman named Carla Nguyen, walked in unannounced. She wore a smart pantsuit and held a tablet computer. Mike straightened his posture as she approached the desk. "Good morning," she said. "I'm here to observe your daily operations. I heard Mr. Carter's audit went well." Mike's heart beat faster. He led her toward the back office where Lisa was reviewing loan documents. Carla asked a few quick questions about the new procedures. Mike pointed to the camera and the near-miss folder. He described how they test alarms monthly and run 5-minute drills after lunch on Thursdays. Carla tapped notes into her tablet, nodded approvingly, and then asked if she could see a brief drill in action. Mike gathered the staff in the break room at 11:30. He asked them to imagine a scenario. A customer leaves a smartphone on the counter and walks away. He asked each teller to describe what they would do. One said, "Call security," another said, "Check the screens," and another said, "Use our announcement system." Mike complimented their answers and reminded them to log the event as a near miss. He timed the session for minutes, 30 seconds. Carla watched through the door, smiling at the teamwork. When it ended, she shook Mike's hand and said, "Excellent. You've turned ideas into practice." Mike felt a warm glow of pride. Just after lunch, a minor incident tested the team's readiness. A man at the counter asked for a teller withdrawal of $2,000. His hands trembled slightly, and he spoke in hushed tones. The teller, Priya, remembered Carter's advice. If behavior seems unusual, politely confirm identity. She asked the man for his ID and bank card. His eyes darted away. He produced a mismatched ID that didn't match the name on the request slip. Priya smiled gently and said, "Sir, may I see another form of ID?" The man's face flushed, and he admitted he had forgotten his card, asked if he could return later. Priya suggested he call customer service to place a hold, then she escorted him to the phone station. Mike watched from his post and realized how well the training had stuck. He stepped forward and said, "Everything all right, Ms. Patel?" Priya nodded. "Yes, thanks to the reminder. I felt calm enough to follow the steps." Mike thanked her and returned to his desk. Later that afternoon, Lisa called Mike into her office. She handed him a printed copy of an email from regional headquarters. Subject line read, "Commendation for Cedar Grove Community Bank Security." She smiled broadly. They liked what they saw, she said. Ike read the email. It praised the quick drill, the new camera coverage, and the handling of the afternoon incident. The director wrote that Cedar Grove would serve as an example for other branches. Mike felt tears prick his eyes. He realized his initial nervousness had given way to confidence and growth. When closing time came, Mike walked the empty lobby. Again, he turned off the light above the new camera housing and saw its lens reflect faintly in the dark. He pressed his code into the alarm panel, heard the tone change to armed, and locked the door. He looked up at the building's sign, glowing softly in the dusk. He thought of Mr. Carter's calm professionalism, Lisa's steady leadership, and the team's willingness to learn. Security was more than procedures. It was a living effort that each person shaped. Mike walked to his car, feeling the weight of the day yet buoyed by accomplishment. He knew tomorrow would bring new challenges, a busy morning with more customers. The arrival of new staff, perhaps another test. But he felt ready. He had turned initial fear into focused improvement and had helped build a safer environment for everyone. As he started his car engine and pulled into the quiet street, Mike promised himself to keep learning, to keep caring, and to keep watching. Because in his hands lay the safety of the bank and its people. And that responsibility, he realized, was the greatest reward of all. The morning sun shone gently through the tall windows as Mike Johnson arrived at the bank. He felt a calm excitement in his chest. It was the first Monday since the audit, and he was eager to see how the new changes were working. He walked through the lobby, past the polished floors and the neatly placed chairs. The camera in the northwest corner watched over the seating area, its lens glinting softly. Mike smiled. He remembered how that spot had once been unmonitored. Now it was under watch, and he felt proud of that small but important improvement. He unlocked the door and switched off the alarm. As he set the panel to ready, he noticed the small stack of near-miss forms on his desk. He had added 2 more over the weekend. One for a customer's phone left on a countertop, and another for a stray deposit slip that almost fell behind the teller's drawer. He filed those away, thinking about how each slip told a story of close calls and quick actions. Each story helped the team learn and grow. Mrs. Thompson arrived first. She tapped her walker lightly as she entered and waved at Mike. He greeted her with a warm smile and reminded her of the new sign near the door. "Please keep your belongings with you at all times." She nodded and thanked him. Mike felt that his simple reminder was part of something bigger. It showed care and respect for everyone who walked through those doors. By 8:15, the rest of the staff had arrived. Priya, The teller who handled the ID incident gave Mike a thumbs up. "Everything's good," she said quietly. "No problem following the steps." Mike smiled and told her how proud he was. The small talk was friendly, but it carried a new weight. They all understood that security was about helping each other. Lisa Morales stepped out of her office and greeted Mike. She held a small envelope. "A token of thanks from regional headquarters," she said with a grin. Inside was a gift card for the break room coffee machine, enough to cover a month of free coffee. Mike laughed and shook his head. "I'd rather have more drills," he joked. Lisa laughed too. "We'll get you more drills and more coffee," she promised. "Deal." Mike nodded. Deal. The clock ticked closer to 9. The doors opened and customers began to file in. Mike stood by the entrance, his posture relaxed but alert. He watched as each person entered, noting their bags, their smiles, and sometimes their frowns. Security was not just about guarding against threats. It was about reading people's faces and moods. He greeted each person by name if he knew them. He greeted new visitors with a nod. A young man in a crisp suit carried a briefcase. Mike gave him a friendly good morning. The man returned the greeting and smiled. Small moments of kindness built trust. Mid-morning brought a visit from a local school teacher, Mrs. Patel, who came to deposit funds from the annual bake sale. She handed her envelope to Priya, who counted the bills and placed them in a deposit bag. As Mrs. Patel left, she motioned to Mike. "Thank you for your prompt help last week," she said softly. Mike remembered how she had dropped her driver's license near the counter and hadn't noticed until she was outside. He had run after her to return it. "Glad to help," he said. She smiled and walked away. Mike felt that every good deed made the bank stronger. After lunch, Mike held one of the weekly 5-minute drills. The team gathered in the break room, pulling chairs from under the desk to make a circle. This time, he posed a scenario. A new visitor tries to use an old ID card with a photo that barely matched. "What do we do?" he asked. The tellers answered swiftly. "Check the photo, ask for a second ID, call security if needed." Mike reminded them to log the event on the near-miss form, even if it turned out to be harmless. Minutes. Everyone laughed, and the mood was light. But beneath the laughter was confidence, shared understanding that they were ready. That afternoon, a real test arrived. A delivery driver came toward the customer pickup window carrying a large box. He asked the teller for directions to the back door. Priya remembered to verify the driver's company ID badge before giving any instructions. She asked to see his ID and the delivery order. The driver's badge looked legitimate, but the delivery order was missing the bank's name and address. Priya spoke into her mic. "Security, please verify delivery details." Mike responded quickly. He checked the approved delivery list on his tablet and found no entry for that box. He asked the driver to wait politely while he called the vendor's office. The driver agreed and stepped to the side. Mike discovered that the vendor's office had never scheduled a delivery. He thanked the driver and escorted him outside. The driver apologized and left. No harm was done, but the team saw how well their training worked. As evening approached, Lisa called a short meeting in her office. The printed report from regional headquarters lay on her desk, updated with a few notes from Carla Nugent's visit. Everyone gathered around. "I want to thank you all for your hard work this week," Lisa said. "You turned feedback into action, and you protected our community." She handed out small laminated cards with a summary of best practices. Camera checks, ID verification, near-miss logging, and drill reminders. The cards fit in a badge holder next to each employee's name tag. "Keep these with you," Lisa said. "Let them guide you." The team nodded and found space on their lanyards. Mike walked home that night under a sky full of stars. He thought about the week's events, the audit, the drills, the small surprises. He remembered the moment when he first met Mr. Carter and felt nervous. Now he felt confident and fulfilled. Security was not just his job, it was his mission. Each day brought challenges, but each challenge brought growth. When he reached his front door, he paused and took a deep breath. He thought of the bank's sign lit against the dark sky, the soft glow welcoming everyone in. He thought of Mrs. Thompson's smile and Priya's calm handling of the ID, of the camera's watchful eye and the near-miss forms that told stories. He felt gratitude for his team and for the chance to learn and improve. He stepped inside and took off his jacket. The quiet of his home felt comforting. He brewed a cup of tea and sat by the window, looking out at his street. He thought of tomorrow, of new customers, new drills, and new chances to practice kindness and vigilance. He promised himself to remain curious and attentive, to remember that even small actions could make a big difference. As he sipped his tea, he thought of Mr. Carter's calm voice and Lisa's steady leadership. He thought of the regional director's commendation and the broader community that relied on their bank. He understood that security was not just about locks and cameras. It was about people, about noticing, helping, and caring. He finished his tea and set the cup aside, felt a soft smile on his face. He was ready for whatever tomorrow would bring. And with that thought, he turned off the light, closed his eyes, and rested. Knowing that he had done well and that he would do even better the next day,